Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you my quick recap style review of the new Viltrox 50mm F1.8 STM lens. If you want more information on all the different aspects of performance here, I recommend that you check out the definitive review instead, or you can read my text review that is linked in the description down below. I've been welcoming the addition of this lens mostly because Sony's own 50mm F1.8 was released in 2016, which is, ancient times when it comes to mirrorless. And as a byproduct of that, it's really not up to modern standards. It has a buzzy micro motor, which, moves in and out. It does a lot of hunting and pulsing, so not great in that regard. Optically, it's only so-so, and it has an inexpensive plastic, fantastic, type of build. The Viltrox comes in at just kind of a cut above all of that when it comes to the build, the optical, and autofocus performance. It is a little bit more expensive. The Sony lens is $250 US. This Viltrox is around $375, $380 US, but it is a much more premium lens and probably more, in some ways, more competitive with the much more expensive 55mm f1.8 in terms of build and features relative to the inexpensive lens. So just so you know, I'm actually currently filming with the Viltrox right now, so you can also get a sense of how it does for video filming in this kind of situation. The Viltrox has an all-metal construction, very, very nice build quality, and one of the highlights to me of that is that it has a beautiful wide metal manual focus ring that is actually really quite exceptional. It has a beautiful feel to it that I would say rivals what you're going to find even on something like the GM lens. Very, very high quality, very nicely damped. It's a great experience. Unlike the Sony lens, it also has an aperture ring that allows you to either set it into an automatic mode, or you can use it with 1/3 stop marking, so it is a declicked aperture, so you can rack all the way through it, which both of those things, manual focus and that aperture ring, makes it a more attractive lens if you're talking about doing video, not to mention the quieter, smoother autofocus that we'll get to in just a second. The lens itself is larger, physically larger than what the Sony lens is, though it is still, relatively compact. It has a 55mm front filter thread, but because it's all metal and a little bit bigger, it is considerably heavier, though that's not a very heavy lens in an absolute sense, but the Sony lens comes in somewhere around 170 grams, so it's almost double that which the Sony lens is, but you're also getting much more bang for your buck. The only thing that's missing here in terms of build quality really is that you don't have any kind of weather sealing on it. There's also not an AF/MF switch on the side, so you're going to have to control that from within the camera. But in terms of actually having some features, it is more feature rich than what either the Sony or the Samyang AF 45mm f1.8 lenses are. The two lenses that are probably closest in terms of price point and focal length / aperture combination. It has a metal lens mount in it. There is a USB-C port there that allow you to do firmware updates simply and easily to help with continued autofocus performance. Autofocus is actually quite good here. We have got a lead screw type STM focus motor, and as you've probably noticed in this video, it's very steady in all of my tests for shooting video in this kind of setting. It also is quiet and smooth in focus transitions, and you can only hear a minimal amount of focus sound if you put your ear right up next to it. But I had very good focus accuracy for stills work, whether I was shooting very narrow depth of field shots. I got good, accurate results. I was able to get good results even in low light conditions, and I was able to effectively focus on my pet's eyes in very dim conditions. Also, I did a portrait session with the lens, and I got consistently good IAF detect, and even when I was shooting some of these shots through layers of foreground, I was still able to get very accurately focused results. So, great news on the autofocus front. It's, again, maybe not GM level, but it is very, very good and very competitive, and that's a huge upgrade when you compare to something like the Sony 50mm f1.8. It also, as you can see taking a look at these MTF charts, it actually has a much better optical performance as well. It's better in the center, it's much better in the mid-frame, it's better out in the corners from wide open. And what I saw is that the actual detail is pretty good in the center of the frame. I found contrast a little bit lower wide open because there is a bit of aberrations that are there, some longitudinal chromatic aberrations that do rob it of a little bit of contrast, though the mid-frame is very competitive, very strong, and the corners are really quite good until like the final, maybe 2% right at the very, very edge. But as you stop down, the lens sharpens up and contrast improves to where at landscape apertures, it's really, really excellent with good detail across the frame. Now, there is that bit of fringing that I discussed, but on the upside, there is next to no distortion, a tiny bit of pincushion distortion, and just a mild amount of vignette as well. I would say less than 2 stops. And so while you don't get the same kind of first party support in camera for corrections, for JPEGs and video, I did find that it was good enough that there really wasn't a lot to correct for. And so for most general purpose shots, I didn't really see a problem. And so, of course, your mileage may vary when it comes to that. But neither thing is extreme, to be sure. Some other potential negatives, however, is that while the bokeh quality is pretty good in a general sense, as you can see from these shots, if you happen to have very bright lights in the frame, say like Christmas lights or, street lights, you will see fairly prominent, what we call onion bokeh, these concentric circles in the bokeh circles, which I don't love, you probably don't love either. I also noted that in some situations, the lens can definitely show some flare artifacts, though I notice those more when panning across a light source and less in my real world type shots. So it's not a flawless optical performance, though it's much stronger than what the competing lenses are, with the exception of the Samyang, which I actually slightly prefer the Samyang's optical performance, even though it doesn't have nearly as nice a build quality as what the Viltrox does. At the end of the day, however, this is a fair amount of lens for the money, and if you're looking for a 50mm lens that is beyond the plastic fantastic, but you don't want to spend for the higher end options, I think that the Viltrox is going to provide a nice mid-range alternative for you to select. If you want more information, you can check out again that definitive video review, or you can check out my text review, which is linked to in the description down below. There are some buying links there, also linkage to follow myself or Craig on social media, to become a patron, to purchase merchandise from this channel. And of course, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Be sure to ring that bell so you get notification when new content drops. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.